And welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time in Shadow Empire in our militia fist-led spoiled democracy run. I think we're within like 0.1% of victory here. It's round 150. We got 3 decisions of winning us. Now that recycling facility is depleted. We're going to be running low on metal. Time efficiency, promise kept. We got our 63 bureaucratic assets. Research into university completed. Resonance scanner discovered. Don't think we got lucky. I don't think we're going to get that last profile feat at this rate. We're not. I don't think we're going to get militia ready to serve. I suppose I can double check to make sure I haven't pulled it and I'm missing it in the nation. Be one of the yellow ones. That's not on that page. Not on that page. Nope, not on that page. Not on that page. No, I did not pull it. Militia want funds.
Understood.
Here, have some funds. Org decisions. VidCom to finish up the 4 Wally Life buildings. Zone, you want more money. I have money, so I have money. Okay, there we go. I made those decisions easy. And the victory-wise, we were at 49.9, and we're still at 49.9. So real close to winning. Just hasn't quite ticked over yet. And honestly, it might show 50 and we might not technically win, because it might be a situation where we'll round up to 50 before we're actually truly at 50. And we lost our road. That was the concern. So we took the road back. I'm gonna group move.
We're taking fire!
So there's the hostile.
Requesting backup.
This is low mountains, so I could move there. So let's grab another one. I can't quite get you there. Can I get you there? Yes. Okay, so that should keep them from taking the road. It means these guys will get supply on the next turn. Quick move some of those guys using strategic redeploy. And then over to the western front here. Let's crush the pocket if I can. They're overwhelming numbers.
No problem.
Pocket crushed. Could take a risk and try to encircle those guys, but I don't think it's worth the risk right now. Supply base was delayed. Shame. Okay, so we completed the hospital, solar panel, hospital, solar panel, hospital, solar panel, separatization plant done, hospital, solar panel, bureaucratic office, Montana, can't get another one, so that's the cap there. Good, good, good. Neris, could grab another one. So we'll start getting another one on construction.
Affirmative.
Dallas, same sort of thing, can get another one, so we'll get another one on construction.
Roger.
In minutes, finish the hospital solar panel comp. Cool. And then the capital has everything. Oh, technically the capital's still working on that socialized housing. Let's go ahead and get more solar panel field. A little low on metal as I do this urbanization plant.
Sir, yes, sir.
But that's pretty metal intensive right now. I'm hoping, well, each one of the hospitals was costing us, was it 100 or 200 metal a turn? 200 metal a turn. So there should be enough of those done that we should actually be metal positive again, but obviously I've blown through most of the metal reserve. I need to chill a little bit on doing more of that. Model design did a little over a third, 37% towards the new infantry. So 2 more turns out and that'll be done. 3 more turns and that will be done. And yeah, you just finished university. Okay, let's cycle the turn. It's about a card I really want to play. I think I want to save up if I can for the legendary speech. It is expensive. No, not leaders. So the problem here is it's the Interior Council Director that I need to play the card on. And I don't think Interior Council can play cards on himself. Yeah, leader cannot execute a stratagem on himself.
Standing by for orders.
Yeah, I don't have a good way to improve his approval of us. Which is a bit of a shame. Okay, so let's cycle the turn. Let's see if we win. Again, we're only 0.1 off, so I would not be surprised if we cycle one of these turns and just find that we've picked up enough in the meantime to win. Watching the end turn. Again, not really expecting anything surprising to happen. If either of the two majors that are hostile towards us did declare, we'd just take enough territory off of them in the first blitz with the militia. That, yeah, we wouldn't, in the long drawn-out war, we probably wouldn't win against them. We'd be having major setbacks because we just don't have the professional troops. But we're so close to victory at this point. The territory loss in the opening turns would be enough for us to win the game. And then, because I usually actually stop playing when we win, I wouldn't have to suffer the consequences of having that war. But yeah. So even if something were to happen, if we ever have a jump scare with one of the majors, finally getting to the state where they can declare on us, proverbial diplomatic failures, I don't think that would necessarily break the state of our run here. I think we'd still win. In fact, if anything, it'd be more likely to accelerate us than decelerate us. As you can see here on Lengelsbrecht. We've got enough militia here, we just we wouldn't necessarily be able to take very much, right? We take a little bit off of this salient, we take a little bit off of this salient, take a little bit off of that salient, but that might just be enough to get the point 1 to win the game. So. Getting attacked by some militia, or some marauders, which are also rifle militia classed units. So, oh, they're running down our road. Eat that road. That's how food gets to some of my troops, guy. When the marauder AI is somehow incredibly efficient at disrupting your supply lines. Always when you least expect it. And there we go. Cunning's Moonland, you have won the game. We killed 5 infantry over the intern. We have 5 decisions. The game is done. Quack doctors. Radiation cleansing discovered. You have won the game. Your strength is now so big, the others do not stand a chance anymore. You have won the game. And yeah, victory-wise, 50.1. Okay, so we did get over 50. I think it's probably rounding up to 0.1. I don't think we jumped a full 0.2 points. But yeah, that is the victory state. So we could definitely continue to be pushing a little bit over here. In fact, there's more hexes we just pick up by advancing. We wouldn't even necessarily need to fight this turn to get more stuff. Populist leader, law vote. This is add forced labor law. Honestly, we really in the long run probably wouldn't want this because more fear is not what we need. But at this point, this is also I'd have to figure it out. I have to go play the full 80 political power to do no on it. So. Probably let it just pass. That's how we'd pass. That would be a yes. Politburo in the Reich turns against us. So we just press yes here. It costs us political power, but we, in theory, deny them from turning hostile. Which one is that? That's these guys down here. The friendly militarists. Okay. But yeah, so that is victory. How did the construction go? Most of it, or most of the stuff that wasn't delayed has finished. And it's mostly just some of the delayed stuff. Okay. And then here's the Empire dashboard on the last turn. Popularity, we are respected. Our word is shifty. We actually got it back up because it was below 50 at one point. Virtue is really low. Primarily because it's really hard to keep virtue up when you're winning. And we are really winning. Anyway, we've got a high enough democracy that we're not worried about the bureaucracy taking over. That's what that is. Managed to bureaucratically entrench themselves. Yeah. And yeah, we're making 6,000 bureaucratic points a turn, which you can see there. The higher your bureaucracy is, the more it's penalized. So we're being penalized by almost 2/3. 2/3 of the bureaucracy is going poof, because the bureaucracy is large. We are level 6 spoiled democracy. We managed to pick up every feat in democracy and spoiled democracy except militia ready to serve. So I did not get to test if you can upgrade regular militia forces or once you turn militia forces into regular forces, we're allowed to upgrade the infantry. I think you can, but I haven't picked up the card to do the swap, so I haven't been able to physically test it. Yeah, I don't think I'm missing it in here. I think we just didn't pull it, which is believable. I'm surprised we pulled structured research. I think we pulled structured research on like the first draw when it was available. But yeah, the next draw would be in 4 turns. I'm not going to play the game for 4 more turns to see if we pull it. And yeah, we were working on getting the new infantry model. I'm half tempted to cycle the turn just to see how much better the new infantry model is over the last one, but we've developed the models before in earlier games, so we know it's going to be better. It's maybe not going to be so phenomenally better as 2 was over 1 and 3 was over 2. It's going to be closer to 3 than the previous ones were but still going to be a pretty big improvement. So let's go into stats before we bring the recording portion here to a close. So, unsurprisingly, at the end of the game, we had the most troops. We didn't have the most troops the entire game, though. In fact, the person who was number 1, I think these guys were number 1, did for the longest time have more troops than us. From about turn 16 to about turn 80, they had more troops than us. And yeah, we had, for the last 70 turns, we were winning due to diplomatically annexing people. This one, is there a place where I can see the victory score? It's regime statistics. Or, this place I can see victory score. Time. Convert to victory screen. There we go. Yeah, so around about turn 80 is when we integrated enough of them to be in the winning state. We weren't done integrating miners, so that's why we scooted up farther into the lead. Although you could see they were catching up in raw numbers, and their troops were probably better quality than ours. So a long dragged-out war against them probably would have been pretty terrible for us, because we would have been losing militia left, right, and center. At least until we find out a way to get them to be better on average. But yeah, that's us. We were fighting the Hansa, which is these guys. They never really took off that much. And these in total troops. Though that's the Empire. That's the Reich. Reich was doing probably the worst. That's the Union. I think that was the Southeast. Casualties inflicted. We weren't inflicting the most casualties. In fact, yeah, the score leader was inflicting the most. We weren't even in the top. I think we were like the top 5. We were definitely not very high there. And then in casualties sustained. Okay, so we were sort of. I think we were 3rd on that one. Yeah. So we did a good job of not losing very many people. Although we were definitely disproportionately losing people relative to what we were inflicting. We were taking more casualties than we were probably inflicting in exchange. We had more troops, so we were able to bleed at that rate. Definitely, if I was running professional troops, that would have not been an acceptable bleed rate. Political polls. Of all the political parties, so we can see the Merchant Society. And so at the beginning it was the Merchant Society, Reform, or not the, well, maybe it was the Reformed League. Martial Army. You see the Martial Army actually disappeared because it transitioned into being the Syndicate. until the Syndicate changed to the Humanist Union, which of course replaced the popular Humanist Union. So those are political parties. Yeah, so it was Merchant Society at the beginning, then we went into the Martial Army after that, which became the Syndicate one and declined, only for the Reformist League, which had been one of our earliest political parties, to come back from behind. Yeah, that's the political state. Zone populace. You can see when we took over every zone, because they suddenly go from being listed as 0 when we didn't own them to up to their final population. And you can see the capital just slowly growing over time. Capital got up to 200,000 people. Oh, that's, was it 300,000 people? Oh, this is populous, so civilian population 200,000. I know the workers included in the score. Is there a good way I can see, like, zone? No, it's just zone populace. I can't do civilian size, which would be these two put together. Yeah, the capital was consistently growing, which is good to see. That was the first diplomatic expand. That one wasn't growing as much, but I wasn't necessarily doing anything to grow that one. Although we were benefiting from its large size. It's still the second largest city. That's actually fairly low. Are you the third city I took over? You were the third city I took over, didn't I? Yeah, we apparently just took over bigger cities after that one. And then you, Boston, Matana, Neris, Bellis, Rush Boys, Lead Cannon, Minos, Mannix, that was the colony we were building, Rootwood, and Blooddorf. Those are all the cities. Private salary was apparently suppressed the entire game. Okay. That's not a very useful graph to look at then. Comparative manpower. This is mostly the size of all the armies. So you can see score leader for the longest period in the game had the most comparative manpower. But then we did reach the point where I started to integrate a lot more of the miners, and that sort of, through the power of militia, just sent us sky high. Apparently near the end, I think, is that like 3 million? Yeah, that's 3.3 million manpower near the end, putting us nearly twice the size of the next largest competitor. So that's showing you the raw power of militia. We had the manpower to spend on dying. Tech level. On hard difficulty, which is what we're playing on, you tend to find that the AI will run ahead of you in technology. I'm actually surprised I'm as far behind as I am at the end. I would have actually guessed at the end I'd overcome them in technology. Apparently not. Part of that is probably due to them being more distributed than we are. I know how to trigger heavy combat, right? So you need polymer to do heavy combat. So the fact that and the reason I'm thinking I'm ahead of them is I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to get tier 4 infantry up before them. And the reason that's happening is because it's a lot. I know what I need to do to sort of go for heavy combat armor. So they're presumably just more spread out. Probably haven't picked up heavy combat armor. Maybe haven't picked up the guns, but they've got more tech than I do. That's what's going on there, I think. Although we're at about the point where we're now parity, right? So I've been more laser focused on what I need to win, and they're just sort of shotgunning everything, which is why they're off in the lead and ahead of us. Technically in tech points. Admin level. You can see why I think I'm thinking I'm ahead of them in tech, because I'm teching faster than them probably at the end because my admin level's higher. This is full bureaucracy. Civilization score. I'm surprised my civilization score is that high. That's mostly the private sector because I only just unlocked the the hospitals. And the hospitals haven't had time to kick in on the civilization score, so that's... This is all private sector victory score. Again, you can see the big period in the middle here, where we're integrating all the miners. And then it slows down because it's mostly just taking over empty territory. We slope sort of the effectiveness of taking temperature over. Virtue score and how everyone's doing. And, yeah, you can see before when we were like 5th and 4th or whatever, virtue was rock solid. I basically couldn't get it off of 100 for extended periods of time. And then it tanks once we're into winning state, around about around 80. We were doing what we could to keep it up, but we weren't doing necessarily the best jobs. Troop quality. So we're mostly militia. Is that regular militia? Yeah, so that's the regular militia. And near the end, we were getting a decent number of seasoned militia. And apparently the militia don't come in green. No green troops, or no green militia. I do have some green troops, but never very many at any given time. Granted, professional troops are not very common anyway in this army, because it was militia primacy here. Military strength, again, mostly militia primacy. We were running, except for a little bit of period in the mid-game. I think that's when we were fighting one of the miners next to us. Once we started integrating miners, I think that's what this jump here was, the first integration of a miner. From then on, we were 80 plus, almost in the 90s percentage militia. Inventories. See the ammo factory coming online, the ammo line just going up. Water was capped out by the stockpile limit. Food is going up, and then I sold a bunch, and it's probably going to continue trending back up. And yeah, you can see all the stockpiles going better. The bureaucracy expanding, and going hand in hand with the size expanding, yeah. Some of these probably shouldn't be graphed together. Like, popularity should not be on the same graph as, because it's a number between it goes 0 and 100. Should probably not be in the same graph as size and hex. Or is this size in Empire? No, because I control 47% of the planet. Don't know what that size is. Anyway, this is the world map as we see it. We've got a big chunk from North Pole to South Pole, sort of a V shape. Anyway, I think that's this. Was that the of the majors? Oh no, Flint Union had come back from being in second. So it's Flint Union here in the southeast, and technically a little bit in the west. And then we have Langle here as number 2. Hansa was 3rd. Empire was 4th, and the Reich is. I think the Reich at this point has actually probably lost their capital to the Empire. In 5th. Politics, you can see struggle to try to maintain the virtue after we start winning. And you can see what I changed in, like, oh, virtue's going down. We've dropped into being spoiled democracy. Let me try to keep morality up to try to keep the virtue from declining more. And then it's technically you get virtue for morality going up. But if you're just stagnant, it doesn't go up anymore. So we did what we could, and then basically gave up. Ascendancy was pretty stable, and well-being score was actually declining. We were about to change that and try to improve well-being, but it is what it is. Law costs going up and up and up, because they're usually percentile costs of BP, political power, and money. So as our money if we get richer, those get more expensive. The casualties. You can see that some turns we just had lots of casualties. 11,200 on what is that? It's like turn 206, so I had a lot of casualties there. And that did not go hand in hand with kills, so it's militia getting wrecked, troops doing killing, and they're not necessarily correlated. There's definitely turns where it's like, yeah, we lose a lot of militia. Do we have anything to show for it? Not really. Replacements requested. 463. Oh, so that's what's available. This is what's still either requested to be sent or actually sent. We never returned any troops. Yeah, so those are the stats. Yeah, we have lots of assets. I'll poke through all those. Mostly did all the professional troops or all trooper 3s. We did have some armor that we were using. So you can see the 65% field test. These guys are decently good for what they were. Did some RPGs. It saw a little bit of fighting, but because we didn't have the org to distribute them throughout the units yet, they were 2 battalions and not dispersed. They work better. I find bazookas work better when they're dispersed in the infantry. And then again, this was a militia primacy, so we had lots of random things the militia brought along. But we didn't necessarily do a lot with professional stuff. Leaders were definitely a struggle, although it's not that we had no good leaders. We had good leaders, we just had lots of bad leaders. Lots of 2s. Managed to keep the number of 1s fairly low, but lots and lots of 2s. And then we wanted to be spoiled democracy. We did end up getting spoiled democracy in the end. Long enough to get all but one of the feats. Of course, the one feat we did not get. Well, the 2 feats I really wanted were permanent militancy, which we did in fact get, and militia ready to serve, which we didn't. We got militia ready to serve. I think, well, we were winning by the point in time where we could have had it. But if we had got it, this would have definitely, assuming my presumption is that you can upgrade the militia forces once they're regular forces. That would have very rapidly allowed us to get a move on. Because my big struggle at the end here was the laws that we were running was really hampering our ability to recruit replacements for the professional troops. So it wasn't like I could just deploy battalion and brigade and such. Lots of brigades and lots of battalions of professional troops. Would have been very useful to be able to turn the militia into regular troops and just be going like, what do I have? I have equipment. What do the militia have? They have men. Can we kind of get those 2 to become 1? Didn't get that in profile laws, but that would have been the end game for this strategy, is you get those 2. Permanent militancy, so we don't suppress the militia's capacity to recruit. And then militia ready to serve to be able to take the bad militia units and either disband them if you can't upgrade them, or upgrade them. Basically go, I am the professional military, we've got the guns, we just don't have the volunteers, and by converting the militia into regular forces, just be like, here's your gun, be much better. And then profile-wise, we're having a little bit of a struggle with trying to stay profile. Democracy is really easy, so you can see democracy is pretty reliably staying up in the higher 80s. But there are definitely some choices that pop up where it's like, yeah, no, you got to pick something that isn't democracy, and you get sort of shoehorned into doing a little bit of autocracy or merit. Same sort of logic with enforcement. We were trying to go enforcement. Enforcement's not too hard. We were sitting up in the 60s. But there's definitely situations where you get handed commerce and government tasks. And it's just like, well, you're taking some government, you're taking some commerce. Commerce in particular, it throws a bunch of stuff at you. And then down here, we had issues with having to do diplomacy. It's a lot easier to do diplomacy with heart and mind. Fist tends to get in the way of diplomacy. Fist is, we're going to rule via the power of our military. If you need to negotiate an agreeable solution, Fist is not the way to do that. In hindsight, because of how the laws work, Yeah, we have voluntarism here, which is if you're going on militia, voluntarism is really good because it's a guaranteed way to get actual militia units. But with the law changes to militia, where you can get them to ignore civilization score, I think that's enforcement commerce are the two on those for civilization score. Take a look at the laws. It might be more meta these days if you're trying to go militia to not go fist, because you don't need the volunteers as much anymore for a militia-centric one. So we got militia mind, militia heart, militia commerce, and militia enforcement. So this removes the half the civilization score modifier. So if you're going to run a militia-centric run, you probably want this just to be able to recruit more. But this is probably actually one of the ones that's less important because it's just removes half the civilization score. A little bit of militancy, a little bit of militia-based morale. Also, probably at the end of the day, if you're not running enforcement, as you can see here, we were running enforcement, but you can't run all 4 of the militia laws without, or all 4 of the secondary profiles in the militia laws, because that's enforcement, and that's heart. So you can't, or enforcement and commerce, right? So you can't run both enforcement and commerce. You have to pick one or the other. So enforcement is probably one of the ones that we were running at this run. I think in hindsight, especially if you're trying to do a spoiled democracy run like we were doing, I think it would probably actually be easier to run heart commerce democracy. You won't have you don't have the profile feat voluntarism to play with. But I think it'll be easier to do the laws that you want. And in politicking, I think if you have enough commerce, because that contributes to inequality, you can pull the spoiled democracy cards earlier. In particular, by pulling the spoiled democracy cards, you have the cards that you can use the loyal virtue. By the time we were getting reliable access to those cards in this one, because we weren't running commerce, because we were running enforcement, my virtue was too low, and I didn't want to sack the virtue for it. If you did it the other way around, you did commerce instead of enforcement, you would get those cards earlier, and you could sack your virtue a little bit better. So that might be a little bit more meta to do instead of enforcement. And then, if you moved away from Fist, I'd probably recommend, I think, probably Heart. Because the Heart is, yeah, that's this one. So, militia maximum size doubles, so that make it easier to do this law. Base morale, militancy. You want this if you're going to run a militia primacy, the way we're doing it. And if you're not running Fist, that's just easy to do. Again, the texture one, you could. I probably wouldn't recommend passing on it, but it definitely is not one you need to rush. And we didn't really rush it in this one. And the reason is militia will get early access to your regular army models. Unless you're playing on a higher game speed, higher development speed. Earlier access is less important, because I think this speeds it up by like 20 turns, which the game was only 150 something turns long, so 20 turns makes a big difference. But 20 turns alone, and one of the reasons you don't have to rush it, because, well, they can start getting access to the regular army unit models 20 turns sooner, I think, is what having that law does. But you can see, even with access to the regular army unit models, rifle militia, rifle militia, rifle militia. So these are obsolete. These are first generation militia. Thunderstrike, that's the bazooka, so that's actually up to date. That's up to date. But you can see, sort of proportionally, even with the tech law, they're not going to give you the highest tech stuff. They'll give you some of the highest tech stuff, but not all of it. So this is not something you need to rush. Good to have. But yeah, if I were to do this again and try to play militia a little bit more meta, what I think is now the meta, I'd probably run commerce, art, because that make the two most important laws, which is this one and this one, easier to pass. Because your parties would support them more. You still have to propose them, but they'd support them more. And then, yeah, you'd want to do militia funding law at some point, but if you save it the political power, you can force this through. And if you have enough militia focus, the intent for them to remove it is going to be low enough that you can override them. And of the 4 militia laws and voluntarism, the profile fee voluntarism, voluntarism is probably the... Assuming you've got the both doubling to the militia sizes, which is commerce and heart, you probably don't need these RNG spawn battalions and regiments and divisions very much. So this one can probably get passed on, in which case you don't need Fist. Because the laws are enforcement, commerce, mind, and heart. So you're going to have 2 of them that you're going to have to sort of actively protect, regardless of which way you go. And if you go Fist, you've got 3 of them you're going to actively protect. And that's what you can see here, is we went enforcement, so this one is sort of everyone already in the government wants this one, because we've been playing enforcement the entire time. But had I run enforcement Fist, or enforcement mind, or enforcement heart, that would have protected one of the other 2 laws. That would have made it a little bit easier on the political power to hold all 4. And yeah. So, and then commerce, again, commerce I brought up would help us have higher inequality, which allow us to push into spoiled democracy maybe a little bit earlier, or at least get more political power by sacking virtue when we're losing, to have better control over the laws. Tech-wise, we were on slow development speed, so we weren't necessarily in 150 turns that deep in the tech tree, although this is sort of what you expect on slow development speed. One thing I might do differently in the future is if I pulled the card for the hidden text down here, which is the Great Archives. Yeah, the Great Archives. I would not play it so early. I would definitely hold off on playing Great Archives until you've hit your mid-game techs. And the mid-game techs here is metal soil filtration, probably high-tech industry. But yeah, metal soil filtration, like heavy industry, high-tech industry. Your sort of mid-game eco-techs. You want all your mid-game eco-techs. Because the discovery chance of having this open just glacially moves all the discovery. That was a mistake, playing that so early. In fact, I probably would be farther, or be more advanced in technology had I not played them, because you can see I played the ability to discover these, but I didn't research any of them. So I played it too early. I objectively played it too early on that situation. And yeah, for a militia-led run, not very much in the types. Yeah, I think that is the overview for how this run went. The run went well. Once we got a map conducive to the run went well. This map did not run into the problem, although I ended up in the war with one of the neighbors. Right, we ended up, if we come to the capital, we were sandwiched between you and you. Actually, I suppose we were sandwiched between you, and you. Right, so we had four minor neighbors. We were lucky that none of the minor neighbors had other majors as neighbors. That's what kind of screwed us in the first attempt at our militia fist-led spoiled democracy, is that they had neighbors for the two minors next to us that had majors of their own next to them. So they ended up getting into wars with majors far too early for us to do anything diplomatically with them. And then in the failed one, we also had like machines north and south, machine AIs. So I wasn't in a situation where I could happily expand against either of the miners until the miners were basically taken. So we were in basically a losing state from ready, set, go there. That I don't think would have been definitively a losing state. It was definitely the one we lost. I think could have been won if I wasn't trying to run militia primacy, because the militia start is slow. But you can see here, once you get out of the slow militia start, we just have militia everywhere. In fact, I've got so much militia that unless I needed to use the militia somewhere, I just had too much militia control at this point. I just have too much. I'd rather have higher quality troops, because these are first gen militia. 14 attack. How do you gotta encircle people by just getting around them? And 27 defense at this point is not enough to fight the majors. So yeah, I've got way too many militia, low quality militia at this point. But that's the strength of militia diplomacy, is you just have so much militia. Got eyes and ears. I could have eyes and ears everywhere at this point. And you can see how the grinding offensive here. Nothing decisive on this front, but we just exploit every hole in the line. And there was things they could do to stop us, but the AI isn't very good at holding cohesive lines. Especially when they're in a multi-front war and they don't have enough for both fronts. But yeah, that's the run. So if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll have a different game up tomorrow. If you're watching this on Twitch, I am, during the part break here, gonna take the stream down as I swap games, because we're not gonna start up a new game at Shadow Empire right away. I want to give time to post this to the Shadow Empire forum, and share how the run went. So yeah, I hope everyone has been enjoying. The second game of the stream is, I think I'm going to go ahead and do another swing at the last scenario I haven't done on max difficulty in Terraformers, The Red Planet Awaits. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can expect there to be a part up from Terraformer, The Red Planet Awaits tomorrow. I think that'll probably be a two-parter. And then we'll be back to different games. If you're watching this on YouTube after Terraforming the Red Planet Awaits completes, it'll either be Solar Expanse or Solar Nations 2. I think we'll play. So I'll go over the schedule for the next couple days, in case those of you watching on YouTube or watching on stream want to know what the next couple days is, because you're not interested in Terraformers. But today was Shadow Empire. Tomorrow is Songs of Six. Sunday is Factorio. Monday will be either Solar Expanse or Solar Nations, with probably the other one being on Tuesday. So that's the upcoming 4 days. I hope everyone has been enjoying. And until next time, I'm going to wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Catch you all in the next part and/or stream, and bye for now.